The last thing I expected on my wedding day was to catch my fiancé in bed with my own sister. But that wasn't even the worst part of that afternoon. My name is Claire, and before I tell you what happened next, I need you to understand something. I grew up believing I was the unwanted daughter, the one who came from nowhere, the one who was tolerated, never loved. My sister, Vanessa, got the private schools, the designer gowns, the easy smiles from our parents. I got the leftovers. And still, I stayed. Still, I tried to earn a place at that table. So when I opened that hotel room door in my wedding gown and found Marcus with her, laughing like I was the joke, something in me didn't break. Something in me finally let go. My father called me a disgrace in front of 300 guests. My mother called me a curse on the family. They stripped my handbag, my phone, everything I owned, right there on the marble floor of that ballroom. And they threw me out into the street like I was nothing. That should have been the end of my story. A girl with no name, no money, and no one. But it wasn't, because sitting on that sidewalk, in a wheelchair, was a man who had been watching the whole thing unfold. A stranger, a man everyone else had already looked away from. And in the wreckage of the worst day of my life, I did something no one saw coming. I knelt in front of him, and I asked him to marry me. I had no idea that the broken man on that sidewalk was about to become the most powerful secret this city had ever hidden. And I had no idea just how much that one decision was about to change absolutely everything. The city clerk's office wasn't the wedding I had imagined as a little girl. There was no orchestra, no flowers, just fluorescent lights, a bored officiant, and a man in a wheelchair signing his name beside mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. His name was Ethan. Ethan Cole. I didn't know anything about him. Not his age. Not his past. Not even where he lived. All I knew was the way he had looked at me on that sidewalk. Not with pity, not with judgment, just recognition. Like he understood exactly what it felt like to be thrown away. He told me, plainly, that he had almost nothing. A small apartment on a quiet street. A modest monthly allowance from a wealthy family that had, in his words, settled the matter of him years ago. A family that preferred he stay invisible. So what you've married, he said that first night, wheeling himself toward the kitchen, is a quiet street, a small allowance, and a man who can barely stand to greet you properly. I remember looking around that little apartment, the chipped paint, the second-hand furniture, and I remember feeling something strange settle over me. Not disappointment, relief, because nothing in that apartment could be taken from me the way everything else had been taken that morning. It's more than I came with, I told him, and I meant it. The first few weeks were quiet, careful. We were still strangers sharing a name. I cooked. He worked from a laptop at the kitchen table, speaking occasionally in low, clipped tones to someone named Leo, always about contracts. Always about numbers I didn't understand and didn't ask about. I told myself it wasn't my business. He had his secrets. I had mine. But there was one thing I couldn't ignore. At night, after the lights went out, I would hear him, not crying, something quieter than that. A sharp breath held too long. The soft, strangled sound of someone biting down on a pillow so the walls wouldn't carry his pain into my room. The first time I heard it, I lay frozen in the dark, unsure if I was allowed to care. We were married in name only, a transaction born out of desperation on my part, and something I still didn't understand on his. But the second night it happened, I got up. I didn't say anything. I just sat outside his door until the sound stopped. And in the morning, neither of us mentioned it. His mother-in-law, technically now mine too, in her own strange way, welcomed me before he ever fully did. Mama Rosa, who lived nearby, and seemed to appear whenever the silence in that apartment grew too heavy. Told me on my third day there, "This compound has been too quiet. Anything you need? My kitchen is your kitchen." I asked her, carefully, how long she had known him, since he moved onto this street. She said, "Quiet man, pays his rent on time, greets his elders, hides his sorrows." She laughed, but there was something knowing in her eyes. That's the thing about him, the sorrows. I didn't press her further, not yet. I told myself I had married a stranger out of desperation, and that whatever debt of gratitude I owed him, I would pay it through quiet devotion. I would learn to live in his silence the way I had learned to live in my parents' cruelty. What I didn't expect was how quickly that debt would start to feel like something else entirely, because somewhere between the second week and the third, I stopped counting the days until I could leave, and I started listening, really listening, for the sound of his pain in the dark, not out of obligation, out of something I wasn't ready to name yet. The doctor's office smelled like antiseptic and old paper files. I sat across from a physiotherapist named Dr. Regis. My hands folded so tightly in my lap that my knuckles had gone pale. "Burn trauma," she said, reading from Ethan's file. 6 years old, chronic nerve pain. Has he been properly evaluated? Surgery, ongoing rehabilitation? There's no money for that. I said, "There's only me." She looked up at me for a long moment. The kind of look that measures whether someone is serious or simply desperate. Then she nodded, slowly, and said, "Then I'll teach you, whatever your hands can carry, for the next hour." She showed me everything. The deep tissue work along the scar bands, the pressure points that eased the spasms before they took hold, the exercises that would hurt him before they helped him. He's used to things that hurt before they help. I told her. He married me. After all. She didn't laugh. Instead, her voice dropped, and she said something I would carry with me for a long time. "One more thing. Listen carefully. Patients like your husband, the ones who carry pain for years in silence, sometimes develop a dangerous habit. When the ache becomes too much to hold, some of them look for another kind of relief, something they can control, even if it isn't good for them." I felt my chest tighten. "If you ever notice anything that worries you," she continued, "a locked door, a long silence, anything that feels wrong, don't leave him alone. Please, come find help immediately." I promised her I wouldn't, and I meant it with my whole heart. That night, I sat beside Ethan on the small couch in his apartment and began the exercises Dr. Reyes had taught me. My hands were clumsy at first, unsure of the geography of his scars. He winced, sucking air through his teeth. But he didn't ask me to stop. "Why are you doing this?" he asked quietly. After a while, 3 days ago you didn't know my name. It was a fair question. I didn't have a clean answer for him yet. Maybe I knelt in front of you because you looked at me like a person. On the worst day of my life. I said, "Nobody else did." Or maybe, he said, his voice edged with something guarded. "You heard I came from money once, and decided a broken man was still better than no man at all." The words landed harder than he probably intended. I set my hand still against his leg and looked at him directly. "Take that back," I said, "or make me believe I should say it myself." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, he rolled up his sleeve, revealing more of the scarring that ran along his forearm. "Look at it," he said. "Really look. Can you look at this every day of your life and not want to run?" I didn't look away. "I'm looking," I told him. "And you know what I see? I see that the fire did everything it could. And you're still here. Scars only mean one thing. Ethan, they mean a person refused to disappear." Something shifted in his face then. Not relief exactly. Something quieter. like a door easing open just a crack. That night, for the first time, I didn't sit outside his door waiting for the sound of pain to stop. I sat inside the room with him, and when the ache came, I was already there. My hands steady, learning the shape of what it meant to stay. I still didn't know his secrets. I still didn't know why a man with a family name like Cole was living on a quiet, forgotten street. But I knew one thing clearly. In a way I hadn't expected to know it so soon. I wasn't just paying a debt anymore. I was choosing to stay. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, delivered by hand. Insisting on a response, Eleanor Cole, Ethan's estranged mother, requested his presence at her annual gala. Rosa read the note aloud with wide eyes. She said, and I quote, "Tell my son that if he doesn't bring his wife to my house, I'll come to that street myself and sit outside his door until the neighbors start asking questions." She would do it. 2. Ethan muttered. I hadn't yet fully understood what it meant that his family had money. Real money. Enough that even the mention of the Cole name made people in that apartment complex go quiet. It's time my wife saw the family that threw me away. Ethan finally said, I wore my own hands to that gala. Literally, my mother, in a rare moment of tenderness before everything fell apart between us, had helped me sew my gown from fabric I could afford, insisting that every stitch would help my husband hold his head up. I pushed Ethan's wheelchair myself through the marble entrance, past women in gowns that cost more than most people's homes, and I felt every eye in that room measure me and find me wanting. No Ed. No assistant. Someone whispered behind a raised glass. The shame of it. Good evening, I said, loud enough for them to hear. Yes. I push him myself. Gold you carry with your own hands. Nobody can steal from you. Eleanor Cole studied me the way a jeweler studies a stone she suspects might be glass. So you're the girl who knelt in front of a wheelchair in front of everyone. She said, they say you married my son with empty hands. My hands weren't empty. Mom, I told her. They were carrying my whole heart. It's this city that couldn't see it. Something flickered in her eyes. Not quite approval. Not yet. But the night's real reckoning belonged to my sister. Vanessa had somehow secured an invitation, arriving in a gown clearly borrowed against a debt she couldn't yet name, ready to perform on the antique harp for Eleanor's guests. She announced the piece as her own composition, dedicated to the great Cole family. I recognized the melody before she finished the first measure. That music is stolen, I said, loud enough to carry across the room. The room turned. Vanessa's smile cracked at the edges. I beg your pardon. I said it's stolen, every note of it, and the theft is currently taking a bow. What followed was the unraveling of a lie my sister had built her entire identity on. The room's true music teacher, a legend everyone in that world revered, stepped forward and confirmed it publicly. The piece belonged to a barefoot village girl who had composed it at 9 years old after hearing a recording once through a neighbor's window. That girl was me. Vanessa had studied under that same teacher for years, presented as the family's gifted daughter, while I remained hidden away, unacknowledged, unclaimed, and somehow, impossibly, she had taken the piece I wrote as a child and paraded it as her own, before people who mattered. You are no longer a student of mine, the teacher told her, her voice cutting clean through the stunned silence. Never speak my name again. Vanessa was escorted out in humiliation, screaming that everything was supposed to be hers. I stood there afterward, shaking, not entirely sure if what I felt was vindication or grief. Perhaps both. It was Eleanor who found me first. Later, in a quiet corner away from the crowd. Closer, she said, studying my face with something unreadable. The eyes are alive again. Someone has been watering a very dry plant. She paused. Tell me something. "Girl, what exactly do you see in my son?" I didn't hesitate. "I see a man who was thrown away by people who should have protected him. And I see myself in that." Eleanor said nothing more that night. But as we left, she pressed something small into my palm. A ring, worn smooth by generations of hands before mine. "This enters the family, before the family had a name," she said quietly. "It goes to the wife with the strongest hand." I didn't yet understand how much that single gesture would come to matter. Dr. Reyes's warning stayed with me longer than I wanted to admit. A locked door, a long silence. Don't leave him alone. So when Ethan wheeled himself into the back room one evening after a call that clearly rattled him, and the lock clicked into place behind him, I felt something cold move through my chest. I knocked, softly at first, then harder. "Ethan." No answer. Just silence. Thick and wrong. "I know what's happening in there," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Open the door. Please." Still nothing. My heart pounded against my ribs as I pressed my palm flat against the wood, as if I could feel him through it. "I am not leaving," I said. "I will stand here all night if I have to, but I need you to open this door." "Ethan." "No." There was a long pause. Then, finally, the lock turned. He looked pale when I stepped inside, his breathing uneven, his eyes rimmed with the particular exhaustion of someone who has been fighting something invisible for a very long time. I didn't ask him exactly what had happened in those minutes alone. I didn't need the details to understand the shape of it. I knelt in front of his chair and took both of his hands in mine. "I am your wife," I said quietly. Not someone managing a patient. Not someone keeping watch from a distance. Your wife. Whatever this is. Whatever door you think you have to lock against me. I need you to understand something. There is no version of your pain that will make me walk away. His jaw tightened. You don't know what you're offering. Then teach me. I said, the way Dr. Reyes taught me your body. Teach me this too. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at our joined hands, like he was trying to remember the last time someone had held on this tightly without flinching. The pain comes at night like soldiers, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. 6 years. 6 years I've fought it alone, in rooms just like this one. The rooms are finished. I told him, hear me. From tonight, there is no door in this apartment that closes against me. We fight your soldiers together, and we are going to win. I swear it. Something in him seemed to loosen. Just slightly. Like a knot pulled tight for years finally given permission to breathe. It was Rosa who came to me the next afternoon, her expression unusually serious as she pulled me aside in the small kitchen. Madame Claire, what I'm about to tell you, I've carried for 6 years, she said. He'll be angry that I said it, but something is telling me tonight is the night. Then say it. I told her. The accident on the bridge, 6 years ago. It wasn't an accident. The brakes were cut, deliberately, professionally. The room seemed to tilt slightly. Cut by who? By order of his own uncle. She said, Gerald Cole, his father's brother, his own blood. His mother knew. Rosa continued, her voice trembling now. There was evidence, a mechanic willing to talk. She buried it. She said a scandal like that would destroy the family name and everything attached to it. So the mechanic was paid and relocated. The file was closed as an accident, and the son who burned on that bridge was asked by his own mother to carry it in silence. For the sake of the family, I felt something harden inside my chest. Something that hadn't been there before. So the uncle has walked free for 6 years, I said slowly, while my husband bites down on pillows in the dark. He sits at every family gathering. Madame, he has stood beside your husband's own mother at family events. smiling, while your husband suffered in silence to protect a name that never once protected him. I looked toward the closed door of the room where Ethan now rested, finally sleeping without the tension that usually lived in his shoulders. They had asked him to swallow fire to protect a family name. I made a quiet promise to myself that night, one I didn't yet know how I would keep. I was going to make sure that name protected him instead. Whatever it cost me, however long it took, the dream came again that night. The same one that had visited me on and off since the wedding. Except this time it wouldn't let me go even after I woke. In it, I was standing on a rooftop. Vanessa was there. My parents were there. Marcus was there too. His hands, the ones pushing hardest against my back. I was screaming a name into the wind, over and over, though I could never quite hear it clearly in the dream itself. And there was someone else on that rooftop with me. One man against all of them, a man who wouldn't let go of my hand, even as they forced me toward the edge. When they finally threw me over, he didn't open his fingers. He fell with me. I woke gasping, Ethan's hand already tightening around mine in the dark. His voice low with concern. "You were saying a name," he said. "In your sleep. 3 nights now. I don't know whose name it is." I admitted, my voice shaking. "I only know that in the dream, you're always the one who won't let go." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, carefully, he asked me to tell him everything, not just the dream, everything I remembered from before, from years ago, from a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. So I told him. I told him about the bus that broke down on the bridge one night, 6 years earlier, when I was still just a girl carrying one bag and my mother's beaded ribbon in my hair, on my way into the city for the very first time. I told him about the accident ahead of us. A car twisted into the guardrail, engulfed in flame. Everyone shouting, no one moving, because the fire and the fear had frozen every grown adult in place. I told him about the sound I heard from inside that car. A man, still alive. I didn't decide to do anything. I said. My legs just moved on their own. I dragged him by the collar, by whatever I could hold on to, screaming for help until 2 men finally came. And when they pulled him away from me, I realized my ribbon was gone. Burned. I mourned that ribbon for almost a year afterward, like it mattered more than it should have. Ethan's face had gone very still. "There's a wooden box in your closet." I continued slowly. "I found it weeks ago. I was afraid to ask about it. A red and gold beaded ribbon. And beneath it, a photograph. My old school uniform. My own face. Years younger. The silence between us stretched long enough that I could hear my own heartbeat. It was you," I whispered, "the man in the fire that night. It was you." 6 years, Ethan said finally, his voice breaking in a way I had never heard from him before. 6 years I carried that ribbon through every surgery, every locked door. Every night the pain came for me like soldiers. The last thing I saw before I lost consciousness was a girl's face above me, refusing to let death take me without a fight. I spent years trying to find you. All I had was a school badge and a blurred photograph. And by the time someone finally found your name, you were already engaged to another man. So you stayed away," I said slowly, understanding, dawning. "The hotel steps. The day of my wedding. You weren't just passing by. I have never once just been passing by," he said, his voice raw. 6 years. Claire. Everywhere you were, I was somewhere behind you, holding onto a ribbon I was too afraid to bring forward. I felt something crack open in my chest, something that had been sealed shut since childhood. "Then hear me now," I said, taking both of his hands in mine. "You are done being behind me. From tonight, we face everything the exact same way we're facing this moment. Side by side. Nothing hidden between us. For the first time since I had known him, I watched Ethan Cole cry without trying to hide it from me. We sat together like that for a long time. Two people who had once saved each other without ever knowing each other's names. Finally understanding that the bridge that nearly ended both our lives had somehow, impossibly, been the beginning of everything that mattered. Neither of us could have known, in that quiet, fragile moment, that our past on that bridge was about to collide violently with a truth neither of us had spoken aloud yet. A truth that was about to change absolutely everything I thought I knew about the man I had married. The call came in the middle of the night, urgent enough that Ethan's assistant didn't bother waiting for morning. "Chairman, forgive me." "Sir." It couldn't wait for daylight. He sat up in bed, watching Ethan's face change as he listened. Something in his posture shifted, straightened, hardened into an authority I had never seen him wear before. "Say the name of the company again," I said slowly. Once he'd ended the call, my voice sounded strange to my own ears. "Cole Holdings," he said quietly. The room seemed to tilt beneath me. Cole Holdings was the company my own father cursed at breakfast for months. The faceless empire that had crushed his logistics contracts overnight. The mysterious chairman everyone in the city whispered about, but no one had ever actually seen. "The ghost," I whispered. "The one everyone calls the ghost chairman. There is no ghost." Ethan said, "There never was. There is only me." I stared at him, waiting for the joke, the correction, anything that would make the words rearrange themselves into something I could understand. It never came. The allowance was a lie. He continued, his voice steady but careful, like a man handling something fragile. "The apartment is mine. The entire street is mine. Rosa. The neighbors. My own staff. All of them playing their parts. All of them on my payroll. I built an entire life around hiding. Claire. Because 6 years ago I learned exactly what my name does to people. I thought of every moment since our wedding day. The careful, quiet life I had built alongside him, believing we were both starting from nothing. The pride I had felt learning to stretch every dollar we had, all of it, apparently, staged. Was I a test, I asked, my voice barely holding together. This whole time, was I just another audition? Ethan didn't look away from me, even as his own eyes filled. "Yes," he said. "I won't dress that in finer language. It was a test, but understand what was actually being tested. Not you. Never you. Me. Explain it to me." I said, "Right now. My uncle cut my brakes for this money." He said, "My own mother buried the truth for this money. Every woman who ever smiled at me before the accident. I watched her calculate my worth behind her eyes before she ever looked at my face. 6 years in that chair taught me a brutal kind of arithmetic. Claire. That nobody could see the man without also seeing the fortune attached to him." He reached for my hand, and for the first time since I'd known him, his grip felt uncertain. Then a disgraced woman in a wedding gown knelt in front of a stranger in a wheelchair. He continued, "A man worth nothing, as far as she knew, and she asked him to marry her anyway. I didn't hide my money to trap you. I hid it because you were the first person in my entire life who made it possible for me to be seen without it. And I was terrified. Claire, I am still terrified that the moment the money enters this room, the man disappears again. Even for you." I sat with that for a long moment, feeling the ground shift permanently beneath everything I thought I understood about my own life. "You watched me defend you to your mother," I said slowly. "You watched me count our last dollars for a physical therapist, while your own signature could move billions before breakfast. The whole time," he confirmed quietly. I wanted to be furious. Some part of me was furious. But underneath that anger sat something else entirely. Something that had been growing quietly since the night I first sat beside his locked door. Here is my only question. I said finally. Not about the money. About you. Was any part of what happened between us real? All of it. He said immediately, his voice breaking. Every single piece of it was real. The money is simply the only thing I never let show you. Everything else. Every night I stayed beside you. Every moment I let myself hope you might actually choose me. That was the only truth I have left to offer. I looked at this man, stripped now of every disguise he had built around himself, and understood something with sudden, startling clarity. He hadn't been hiding his fortune from me. He had been hiding himself. The parts of him that had learned, painfully, that love and money could never be trusted to arrive in the same room together. And now, for better or worse, I was the one person who had already chosen him before I ever knew the difference. Word of Ethan's true identity spread through the city faster than either of us could contain it. And with it came every person who had ever wronged him. Circling back with fresh hunger, my own father showed up first, cornering me outside a market stall, his voice thick with desperation. "You're inside that family now," he said, "married to one of them. Even if it's the broken one, find the chairman. Claire, reach him, beg him. A daughter's tears can move what money cannot. You disowned me in front of 300 people. I reminded him, you seized my handbag on the worst day of my life. And now you want me to beg on your behalf." He had no answer for that. I walked away and didn't look back. But my family's schemes were the smallest of our problems. Gerald Cole, Ethan's uncle, the man who had ordered the brakes cut on that bridge 6 years earlier, had spent those same years quietly collecting allies, calling in favors, waiting for exactly this moment of exposure to strike. Now that the ghost chairman had a face, Gerald moved fast, calling an emergency board meeting to challenge Ethan's authority, spreading rumors about his health, his capability, his fitness to lead. He's building a case to remove me, Ethan told me one evening, his jaw tight with a fury I rarely saw from him, using the very story that should have made him a criminal to instead make himself the reasonable one. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Rosa's nephew, a young boy Ethan's household had grown genuinely fond of, went missing from school. The message that followed was simple and cold. Bring certain land documents to an abandoned warehouse. Alone. Tonight. And the boy would be released unharmed. It's a trap, I said immediately. You cannot walk into that building alone. I know it's a trap, Ethan said quietly, and I'm still going. He's 7 years old. Claire, I won't let a child pay for what my family did. Then we call the police. If they see a single uniform, the boy doesn't come home. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. These are cornered men with nothing left to lose. There's only one way this works. They have to believe they've already won, all the way to the very last second. I sat with that for a long moment, feeling old fear and new resolve tangled together in my chest. Then hear my condition, I said finally, and it isn't negotiable. Whatever the plan is, I am part of it. We agreed there would be no more locked doors between us. That includes warehouses. We spent that night preparing, Ethan quietly briefing his most trusted people, building a plan meant to look like surrender while actually closing a trap of our own. The warehouse was exactly as cold and abandoned as I'd imagined, lit by a single swinging bulb. Gerald's men demanded the documents first, then insisted I sign the transfer papers myself, watching everyone the entire time with the particular nervous energy of men who knew they had already gone too far to turn back. They'll hurt us anyway, I whispered to Ethan. Look at them. Then hold on, he murmured back, so quietly, only I could hear it. The story isn't finished yet. What happened next unfolded faster than I could fully track. A blur of shouting voices, sudden movement, the specific chaos of a plan finally springing loose. Somewhere in the middle of it, An explosion tore through part of the structure, the heat and force of it throwing me backward through a broken window frame. I remember screaming Ethan's name into smoke and debris. I remember the boy being pulled to safety, coughing, but unharmed, wrapped immediately in his mother's arms. I remember flashing lights arriving far too late to matter, and I remember, most clearly of all, the sight of Ethan buried beneath the wreckage, not moving, as I clawed through broken concrete with hands that no longer felt like my own, screaming for anyone at all, to help me reach him. The last thing I heard before the paramedics pulled me back was my own voice, raw and broken, begging him not to leave me now, not after everything it had taken for us to finally stop hiding from each other. The surgeon's words landed on me like separate blows, one after another. Burns, he said, would heal. Fractures, he said, would heal. But the head trauma from the falling beam had left Ethan in a deep coma, and no honest doctor, he warned me, would ever promise me a date for when, or if, he might wake. Then I won't ask for one. I told him, for 3 days, I didn't eat more than a few spoonfuls of anything Rosa placed in front of me. I sat beside Ethan's bed, watching machines breathe for him, and I made him a quiet promise every single evening. I would sing him the same song, both halves of it, the one only I knew, every single night until he opened his eyes and told me my tuning was off. But grief, I quickly learned, was a luxury the world outside that hospital room refused to grant me. Word spread through Cole Holdings within hours. By the end of the first week, the boardroom had already begun circling, like it did with every wounded thing in that city. A man named Adenuga, uninvited and unapologetic, stood before the assembled directors and made his position clear. Sentiment aside, he said, the chairman is, by every account, incapacitated. The seat cannot remain empty forever. The seat stays empty, I said, walking into that room with documents Leo had prepared weeks in advance, because the chairman is coming back to it. I laid 2 papers on the table. A power of attorney over Ethan's affairs, executed months earlier, naming me, and his standing board proxy, registered directly with the company. Both, I informed the room calmly, gave me full standing to speak in that meeting, whether they liked it or not. Gerald, still scrambling to consolidate power in his nephew's absence, tried to paint me as an opportunist, a village girl who had climbed into a broken man's bed and now reached greedily for his empire. I let him finish. Then I methodically dismantled every accusation with facts, timelines, and the particular calm of a woman who had nothing left to lose and everything left to protect. By the time I left that boardroom, Adenuga had been escorted out under 4 minutes, and the interim dividend had been approved exactly on schedule. Confidence is cheaper than panic. I told the remaining directors before I left. We can afford both. We choose confidence. Word came back to me later that the directors had grown more afraid of me in that single meeting than they had ever been of Ethan himself. I didn't know whether to feel proud of that or simply exhausted by it. Every evening, after the company's chaos settled into something manageable, I returned to the quiet of that hospital room and became someone else entirely. Not the chairman's proxy, not the woman holding a company together with borrowed authority, just his wife, sitting in the dim light, talking to a man who couldn't answer me. I'm running out of enemies to fight for you, I told him one night, half laughing, half breaking. You need to wake up and take some of them back. Rosa never left my side for long, quietly making sure I slept in fragments. Ata in fragments, existed in fragments. The way people do when they're holding themselves together, purely out of necessity. It was during the 5th week, while sitting beside him in the half-dark, going through Leo's latest reports. that something in the pattern finally caught my attention. Gerald had fallen. My sister's schemes had collapsed publicly. My own father sat, facing his own reckoning. Every enemy who had ever come at us directly had already been dealt with. Every enemy except one. Marcus, my former fiancé, had shown up twice near the hospital, each time with a court order barring him from our family. Each time somehow still funded, still bold enough to test the boundaries of that order. A man with no money of his own, suddenly emboldened by resources that weren't his. Someone was still funding him. Someone was still pulling strings from somewhere in the shadows. Patient enough to wait until I looked most vulnerable to strike. I sat with that thought long into the night, Ethan's hand cool and still in mine, and made a decision I hadn't fully admitted to myself until that exact moment. If one snake was still hiding in the grass, waiting for the wounded bird to finally stop watching, then I would simply have to let it believe the bird had stopped watching entirely, and wait for it to finally show itself. He woke on a Tuesday, 5 weeks and 3 days after the warehouse, though I stopped counting somewhere around week 4 out of a strange, superstitious fear that counting too closely might jinx it. How long was the first thing he asked? His voice cracked and unfamiliar from disuse. 5 weeks. I told him, gripping his hand so tightly my own fingers ached. 3 days. Not that anybody was counting. The boy from the warehouse was safe. I told him, untouched. His mother hadn't left the hospital corridor in days out of sheer gratitude. The men responsible were convicted, awaiting sentencing. The company had held, the share price steady, the dividend paid on schedule. Of course it held. Ethan murmured, managing something close to a smile. Who knows I'm awake. This room, I said. The 2 doctors bound by contract. That's all. He was quiet for a long moment, processing something behind his eyes that I recognized immediately as the particular stillness he wore right before he started building a plan. Everyone who came at us has fallen, he said slowly. Gerald, Vanessa, your father, the men in that warehouse, everyone. Claire, except the one paying for it. I felt my stomach tighten, because I had already reached the same conclusion weeks earlier. Alone, in the dark beside his bed. Marcus, I said, he's broke. He has no resources of his own. Someone is funding him. Someone has been funding all of it. Then let's find out who. Ethan said, by letting them believe they've already won. We built the trap carefully over the following weeks. Publicly, I remained exactly what the city expected me to be, a grieving, vulnerable, extraordinarily wealthy almost widow, attending charity functions with a brave face and trembling hands, letting the whispers about my husband's condition spread unchallenged. Privately, Ethan's security team quietly traced every payment connected to Marcus, following the money back through shell accounts until it arrived. Finally, at a name neither of us had considered, Patricia, Marcus's own mother. The confirmation came the same week as a charity auction I had already agreed to attend, an event Patricia herself was hosting. Ironically, in support of a children's hospital fund. She found me early in the evening, dressed in something clearly meant to outshine my grief. Poor thing, she said, just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Coming out bravely with your husband, still practically a vegetable on a machine somewhere. Some women marry misfortune the way others marry money. I replied evenly, and watched her smile falter slightly before she recovered it. When the bidding began, I let her enjoy her small cruelties a while longer, watching her needle me publicly about my dwindling fortune, about a husband who couldn't even hold a glass, about a family that had clearly run out of luck. Then I stood and announced a donation of $500 million on behalf of the Cole Foundation. Board approved that same morning, earmarked entirely for a new pediatric burn unit. My husband and I know a little something about fire. I told the stunned room. Chief Mrs. Patricia, since we're speaking about the children tonight, remind everyone what your 50 million actually builds. Beyond tonight's headline, the room's attention shifted entirely. Exactly as we'd planned. Later that same evening, Patricia herself made contact, sending word that she had urgent information about the accident on the bridge, luring me toward a private meeting she believed would finally break me. Instead, she walked directly into a room already wired for sound, already recording every word of her own confession as she detailed the truck driver's payment, the accumulated evidence against my husband. The small satisfaction she took in believing his coma had simply joined her side of the war. Marcus, present for the unraveling, tried desperately to distance himself the moment the recording played back. "You should have vetted your own hired men more carefully," Ethan said calmly, wheeling himself into the room at exactly the right moment. Very much awake. Very much alive. My security team flagged these payments weeks ago. Patricia's arrest followed within the hour. Conspiracy to murder. Conspiracy to kidnap. Obstruction. A list long enough to guarantee she would not be attending any more charity galas for a very long time. Are all our snakes finally finished? "Husband," I asked him quietly, once the chaos had cleared and we were finally, blessedly alone. "The grass is empty." "My love," he said, reaching for my hand. "For the first time since a bridge caught fire 6 years ago, the grass is completely empty." The park was quiet that evening. The kind of quiet that only comes after a war has finally ended. "You're becoming sentimental, Chairman," I teased, watching him walk. Actually walk. Beside me under the string lights. "First you learn to dance again. Now evening walks in the park. A wise woman once told me that gold you carry with your own hands, nobody can ever steal." He said, "I'm carrying my whole life right now. Claire. All of it. We had survived more than either of us should have had to survive. A wedding that shattered me. A stranger who became my whole world. A bridge that nearly took him from me twice. And every single enemy who ever believed love and money couldn't possibly exist in the same place. Finally, permanently silenced. Then, without warning, he stopped walking, and slowly, unmistakably, he lowered himself down onto one knee in front of me, on legs that 6 months earlier no doctor believed would ever hold his weight again. "You married a stranger in a wheelchair with nothing but your heart in your hands," he said, his voice breaking. "Marry me again. In daylight. Before God. Before everyone. Knowing absolutely everything now. The man. The money. The scars. The whole impossible madness of it. Marry all of it." I looked down at this man who had crossed fire twice just to find his way back to me. "Yes," I whispered. "I said yes on those hotel steps a long time ago. Everything since then has just been the echo. If this story moved you even a little, if you found yourself holding your breath through Claire and Ethan's journey, don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button. Because we bring you powerful, emotional stories just like this one every single week. Drop a comment below and tell us which moment hit you hardest. And if this touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to believe that love can still find its way home.